Have you ever stopped to think about what it really takes to get words from your brain onto a page? Quickly and clearly.
Hmm.
Or even how just one invention can totally transform society in ways its creators, well, they couldn't possibly have imagined.
It happens more than you'd think.
Right. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the story of a machine that did exactly that.
And our focus today is this really fascinating historical document, the story of the typewriter, 1873-1923. It was published way back by the Herkimer County Historical Society.
Herkimer County, that name will come up again, actually.
It will indeed. It's just a remarkable look back at the first 50 years of an invention that, truly changed the world. No exaggeration there.
And our mission here, like always, is to give you that shortcut to being really well informed. We want to pack this with surprising facts, those aha moments that, well, make learning fun, right? We're going to unpack how the typewriter, in just 5 decades, completely revolutionized intercommunication, expanded modern business, and maybe most profoundly became the chief factor in the economic emancipation of women.
A huge claim, but the evidence is pretty compelling.
Okay, let's dig in. Before the typewriter, the world was really stuck in what our sources call pen slavery. I mean, can you even picture that?
It's hard, isn't it? A
Yeah.
world where every single document, every letter had to be painstakingly handwritten.
The sheer amount of time.
Oh, absolutely. And, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the desire for faster writing goes way back. I mean, back to antiquity.
Really? Like how far back?
Well, think about shorthand. Marcus Tullius Tiro, he was Cicero's secretary, developed a system with something like 5,000 signs. Even Emperor Titus apparently mastered it.
Wow.
But what's really strange is, Gutenberg invents the printing press, right? Mass communication. But it still took more than 4 centuries for people's thoughts to seriously turn towards machinery for individual writing.
That is a long gap. So what was the absolute earliest attempt we know of?
Well, the earliest recorded one is surprisingly far back. Henry Mill, an English engineer, he got a British patent in 1714.
1714.
Yep, for an artificial machine or method for the impressing or transcribing of letters singly or progressively.
Yeah.
So neat and exact as not to be distinguished from print. Pretty detailed description.
Okay. Sounds promising. So what did it look like?
That's the fascinating part. Despite that description, there's no model, no drawing, not even a record of the machine itself. Nothing.
So it just vanished? Or maybe never existed beyond the patent?
Exactly. The secret, if there ever was one, seems to have died with Mill.
Huh. Okay, so fast forward.
Right. Nearly a century later, you get the first American patent. William A. Burt, 1829.
Good.
His machine actually existed. It used type on a circular segment, sort of like an ancestor of today's type wheel machines. Sadly, the original was destroyed in a fire, but they recreated it later.
And did it have a catchy name?
Huh? Apparently not. People were completely stumped trying to name it. One suggestion was Burt's Family Letterpress.
Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
Not quite.
We also see other early efforts, right? Like Xavier Projon's typographic machine in 1833.
Yes, and that one used type bars arranged in a circle, which is, starting to look a bit more like the modern designs we eventually got.
And there's this interesting persistent connection to the needs of the blind, even early on.
That's right. People like Pierre Foucault, who actually made a successful machine in 1849 that printed embossed letters for the blind. A real practical application there.
So looking at all these early attempts, these often failed attempts, what's the big takeaway for you? What held them back?
I think the key thing, and it's a phrase from the source that fits almost all of them, is this. It did good work, but it was too slow.
Ah, speed.
Exactly. The main advantage people were chasing wasn't just making things neat, although that was nice. It was saving time. The world needed speed. And, well, the hour for the truly practical typewriter was definitely getting closer.
Okay, so here's where it really gets interesting. The action shifts to Milwaukee. Winter of 1866-67. You get this confluence of minds.
Right. You've got Christopher Latham Sholes.
Yeah.
He was a printer and publisher by trade.
Okay.
He joins up with Samuel Soleil and Carlos Glidden. Initially, they were actually working on something else, a machine for numbering pages.
So the typewriter wasn't even the first goal.
Apparently not. And Sholes himself, he sounds like quite a character based on the descriptions.
Oh, so?
Well, described as unselfish, kind-hearted, modest to a fault, and remarkably indifferent to making money. He apparently once said he'd been trying all his life to escape becoming a millionaire.
You don't hear that every day from an inventor.
Not at all. But his background as a printer, that was key. He really understood the need for a better way to write, firsthand.
So what was the actual spark, the moment they shifted from page numbers to letters?
It seems like it was a few things coming together. Glidden apparently made this casual remark like, why can't we make a machine that writes letters and words, not just figures?
Just planting a seed.
Exactly. Then, Sholes saw an article in Scientific American about a different machine, John Pratt's Terratype, which was supposed to do just that. That article really captured Sholes' imagination.
Okay.
And get this, there was even a general, William G. Leduc.
The name sounds familiar.
He later introduced the typewriter into government service. Well, he apparently also suggested the idea to them back in 1867, so the idea was kind of floating around.
It really sounds like an idea whose time had come.
It does. So they pooled their interests, brought in a skilled mechanic named Matthias Schwalbach. He wasn't just building their ideas, he developed some of his own too.
A team effort.
Definitely. And by the autumn of 1867, they had their first crude machine. Full of defects, the record says, but it wrote accurately and rapidly.
That's the key phrase, rapidly.
And then enters James Densmore,
Okay, another name.
a crucial one. He got a letter that Sholes had typed on this early machine, and he instantly saw the potential. He invested. Well, yes, but he was also brutally honest. He apparently looked at that first model and said it was good for nothing, save to show that the idea was feasible.
Ouch. But he still invested.
He did, because he had this unquenchable faith, as the source puts it. And that faith basically saved the whole project, often when Sholes himself was ready to give up.
So Densmore was the believer, the driving force.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Their relationship is described as a strange meeting of opposites. Densmore was bold, aggressive, apparently even called a plain crank.
A crank.
Yeah, the source mentions he was a militant vegetarian who'd, argue with meat eaters.
Okay, quite the personality contrast with the modest Sholes.
Totally. But Densmore consistently played the part of the driver. He pushed Sholes constantly. Build another model, build another one. 25 to 30 models in total, they think.
25 to 30.
Yep. Until finally, in early 1873, they had a machine Densmore felt was ready for manufacturing.
Wow, that's persistence. So without Densmore.
It might have just fizzled out like so many other early attempts.
And the name. Typewriter.
That was Sholes himself. Simple, direct, and, nobody's ever really improved on it, have they?
No, it fits perfectly. It really shows, doesn't it, that invention isn't always some lone genius in a lab.
Yeah.
It's often this mix of vision, practical skill, and just sheer, maybe slightly cranky persistence.
Absolutely. Collaboration and that relentless drive.
So, okay, 1873. They have a machine deemed ready. You'd think, great, let's start selling. But finding someone to actually make it in quantity, that's the next hurdle, right?
A big one. They needed a manufacturer with serious resources, precision engineering skills.
And their thoughts turned to gun makers.
Seems like a logical leap, actually. E. Remington & Sons in Ilion, New York. Famous for guns, yes, but that meant they had the machinery and the expertise in mass-producing complex metal parts.
Ah, okay. Makes sense. The company itself had a long history, right? Back to Liphilip Remington welding his own gun barrel in 1816.
That's the one. So, February 1873, Densmore goes to the Remington Works. He brings along a salesman named G.W.N. Yost. The source calls Yost Aaron to his Moses, which is quite evocative.
Huh. Good description. Did Sholes go?
No. Apparently too modest, didn't attend the big pitch meeting.
Fits his character.
It does. But a key person who was there was Henry Harper Benedict. He'd later become really central to the Remington Typewriter Company. He saw the machine Densmore brought.
And what did he think?
He admitted it was very crude, but he immediately saw the potential. He apparently said there was an idea there that will revolutionize business.
Wow. Instant recognition.
Yes, and he urged the head of the family business, Philo Remington, we must on no account let it get away. Real foresight.
So that meeting was crucial.
Absolutely pivotal. It led directly to the historic contract signed on March 1st, 1873. Eventually, the Remingtons acquired full ownership.
And what about the inventors? Densmore and Sholes?
Densmore did well, apparently got rich from royalties. But Sholes, true to form, sold his royalty rights fairly early on for just $12,000.
$12,000 for inventing the typewriter.
Seems to be his only known significant financial reward for what the source calls his priceless invention.
Wow. That's, well, consistent with his character, I guess.
It certainly is.
So Remington takes over. What happens next?
They put their top mechanics on it. A guy named William K. Jenn, described as a mechanical mastermind. took Scholes's relatively crude model and really refined it for mass production.
Turning the prototype into a product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in early 1874, they launched the first commercial model. Initially, it was just called the Typewriter. We now know it as the Model 1 Remington.
The Model 1. Okay. What was it like?
Well, it had some quirks. You could definitely see the sewing machine influence in the design, apparently. It even had this weird foot treadle, like on an old sewing machine, to return the carriage.
A foot pedal? Seriously?
Yeah, that didn't last long, quickly discarded. But the biggest limitation, the real defining feature of the Model 1, was that it wrote capital letters only.
No lowercase.
Nope, no shift key yet, just block caps.
Huh. And the keyboard? Was it QWERTY right from the start?
It was the universal keyboard, as they called it, which is basically the QWERTY layout we still use.
And people always wonder if that was designed for speed, but that's not quite right, is it?
Not typing speed, no. The sources confirm Densmore and Sholes worked it out, but the main driver wasn't logic or ergonomics in the modern sense. It was mechanics.
Mechanics, how so?
The early type bars, the little metal arms with the letters on them, had a tendency to collide and jam if commonly used letter pairs were too close together and typed too quickly.
Ah, they'd stick together.
Exactly. Stick fast, as the source says. So the QWERTY layout was primarily designed to slow down the typist just enough on common combinations to prevent these mechanical clashes. It's a solution born from a mechanical problem.
That is genuinely fascinating. It wasn't about making us faster, it was about making the machine work reliably.
Precisely. Practical problem solving, winning out over theoretical efficiency.
Okay, so the machine is finally out there. Model 1 Remington. Caps only. QWERTY keyboard. But getting people to actually buy it and use it, that wasn't exactly easy, was it?
Not at all. It was an uphill battle. The very first catalog for it is described as a wonderfully primitive artifact.
What did it say?
Well, it called the typewriter a machine to supersede the pen, which is pretty bold, and even a beautiful piece of furniture.
Furniture.
But it also made some pretty dubious claims, like saying you could use it when pen writing is impossible, for instance, by persons traveling by sea.
Typing on a ship in 1874, I'm not sure about that.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
But the biggest misstep in that early marketing
Yeah.
was how much they underestimated the business market. They pitched it heavily to reporters, lawyers, authors, clergymen.
Okay, people who write a lot.
Right. But for businessmen,
Yeah.
just this single, almost throwaway line. The merchant, the banker, all men of business can perform the labor of letter writing with much saving of valuable time.
They almost missed the killer app.
Totally. They didn't seem to grasp just how revolutionary it would be for commerce.
And the public, were they lining up to buy it?
Hardly. There was a lot of curiosity, sure, but also a ton of skepticism.
Hmm.
Remember, this thing cost $125.
Which was a fortune back then.
Exactly, compared to a
nice.
penny pen. And you get these great anecdotes. Mark Twain is the famous one. He bought one in 1874, really early.
Right.
But then he sent them this queer testimonial, basically begging them not to use his name or even tell anyone he owned this curiosity-breeding little joker,
He was embarrassed by it.
or just didn't want the hassle, maybe. He did later become the first author to submit a typewritten manuscript for life on the Mississippi. But initially, yeah, very hesitant.
Any other examples of that skepticism?
Oh, yeah. The source tells of a Kentucky mountaineer who got a typewritten letter and sent it back, furiously scribbling on it, "You don't need to print no letters for me. I can read writing."
Huh. He thought they were insulting his literacy.
Seems like it. Or William Jenney, the Remington mechanic. He tried to make a hotel reservation using a typewriter, and the clerk just threw it away, thinking it was a printed advertising circular.
People just didn't know what it was.
Exactly. Deep-seated resistance to something new. And this really came to a head at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia in 1876. Big World's Fair,
Okay. Big opportunity.
you'd think. Alexander Graham Bell's telephone was in the same building, and it became a worldwide sensation, the typewriter. Comparatively unnoticed.
Ouch.
They sold very few machines, apparently only made money by selling little typewritten novelty samples as curios.
So why? Why did it take so long for such a clearly useful invention to catch on?
Well, the marketers eventually figured it out. They weren't just selling a machine. They were selling a whole new idea, a new way of doing things.
Changing habits is hard.
Very hard. And there was another huge practical problem. Who was going to operate these things? There were no trained typists.
Ah, right. You can't just hand it to someone who's only ever used a pen.
Exactly. And this led directly to the typewriter companies basically having to create the entire system of modern commercial education. Typing schools, secretarial courses, they had to build the user base from scratch.
Wow. They didn't just invent a machine, they invented the jobs to go with it.
In a very real sense, yes.
So we've talked about the invention, the business side, but what about the broader impact on society? Our source suggests this was actually the typewriter's greatest triumph.
It really argues that persuasively. And the core of that argument centers on the economic emancipation of women.
Okay, explain that connection.
Well, think about the situation in 1873 when the first model came out. Outside of maybe teaching or nursing, what were the options for intelligent, educated women?
Not many, right? Factory work, domestic service.
Pretty much. Low-skill, low-paid labor. And there was enormous prejudice against women working in business offices alongside men. It just wasn't considered proper.
A completely different world.
Absolutely. Now, interestingly, there was a precursor to this change mentioned in the source, a man named General Francis Elias Spinner.
From Herkimer County, right, where the Historical Society is based.
Very same. He was Treasurer of the United States during the Civil War, from 1861 to 1875.
Okay.
During the war, there was a huge shortage of male clerks. They were all off fighting. So Spinner came up with what the source calls the startling innovation of hiring several hundred women as government clerks in the Treasury Department.
It's out of necessity.
Largely, yes, and it was seen as radical. But Spinner was incredibly proud of it. There's actually a statue erected in his honor by the women who worked in those government departments.
Wow.
And the statue bears his own words. The fact that I was instrumental in introducing women to employment in the offices of the government gives me more real satisfaction than all the other deeds of my life.
That's powerful. But it wasn't easy for those women, was it?
Not at all.
Mm-mm.
Despite Spinner's efforts, they faced intense prejudice. There's a quote from a writer named Grace Greenwood summarizing the attitude. Would you work for nothing, board yourself, and be lied about?
Grim. So Spinner opened a door, but it was still a struggle.
A major struggle. And then along comes the typewriter.
Quietly.
Quietly, unobtrusively, but, as the source says, triumphantly. It started to break down those barriers of conservatism and prejudice, not through argument, but through need.
Oh, so.
The source puts it very directly. The girl stenographer and typist came into business because she was needed. The typewriter itself stimulated so much business activity, created so much correspondence and record-keeping.
That there simply weren't enough men to do all the clerical work.
Exactly. Suddenly, there was this huge demand for operators, and women, who proved adept at mastering the machine, filled that demand. It was, as the source calls it, the law of necessity and fitness at work.
So the machine created the job, and women were the best fit for it at the time.
Right. And these typists, they blazed the path, paving the way for women to enter all sorts of other departments in the business world.
It wasn't just about typing anymore.
No, it was the entry point. This economic freedom, this ability to earn a respectable living in an office environment, won largely through the writing machine, led directly to other developments.
Like what?
Well, the source connects it explicitly to modern feminism, the suffrage movement, women's broader participation in public life. Economic independence fuels social change.
That's a huge impact for a mechanical device.
It really is. And what's quite poignant is that Christopher Latham Sholes, the inventor, lived long enough to see the beginning of this massive social shift.
Did he recognize what he'd done?
It seems he did, in his own modest way. He apparently remarked in his later years, I don't know about the world, but I do feel that I've done something for the women who have always had to work so hard. This will enable them more easily to earn a living.
He saw that specific impact.
He did. He truly builded wiser than he knew, as the saying goes. He might not have foreseen the full scope, but he recognized he opened a door for women.
Okay, so the social impact is profound. But the machine itself didn't stand still, right? Once it started getting accepted, it began to evolve pretty rapidly.
Oh, absolutely. A relentless march of innovation. The Model 1 was just the beginning. The Model 2 Remington, which came out in 1878, was a huge leap.
What did the Model 2 add?
The big one. A shift key mechanism.
Ah, lowercase letters,
Right.
finally.
Finally. Thanks to the work of inventors like Byron A. Brooks and Lucien S. Crandall, who developed workable shift systems. Now you could type like normal text, not just shouting in caps.
That must have made a massive difference in usability.
Huge. And other practical improvements followed. Things we totally take for granted, like the automatic ribbon reverse.
So the ribbon automatically goes back the other way when it reaches the end?
Yeah. That didn't appear until 1896. A guy named George B. Webb finally cracked it after William Jenn, the Remington mechanic, had worked hard on it too. Before that, you had to manually reverse the ribbon spool.
Annoying.
very. And then there was the demand for visible writing.
Meaning you could see what you just typed.
Exactly. On the early machines, like the Remingtons, the type bars struck the underside of the platen, the roller, so you couldn't see the letters until you lifted the whole carriage up.
You were typing blind, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This led to intense competition to create visible writers. A major breakthrough was the Underwood machine in 1897.
Underwood, still a famous name.
Right. It introduced the front stroke principle, where the type bars swing up and hit the front of the platen. That became the standard we see today. You could finally see your work as you typed.
Makes sense. But the biggest leap in operator skill, that came from something else, didn't it?
It did. It came from the touch typing system.
Not looking at the keys.
Exactly. And what's really remarkable here, according to our source, is that touch typing was essentially a discovery of the blind and a gift by them to all the typists of the world.
How so? Because they couldn't see the keys anyway?
Precisely. Pen writing is incredibly difficult if you can't see. So people who were blind needed a tactile system, a way to type by feel. They pioneered the methods.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
An accessibility need led to a universal improvement for everyone.
It's a fantastic example of that. But, the spread of touch typing among sighted users was actually quite slow at first.
Really? People still preferred the hunt and peck method.
Yeah, the peck and hunt, as they called it, was very common. Instructors even taught it. But there was this pivotal moment in 1888, a big speed contest.
All right, a typing showdown.
Basically, yeah. Between Frank E. McGurran, who was a self-taught touch typist,
Okay.
and Louis Straub, who was an instructor of the old look-at-the-keys method.
And who won?
McGurran, decisively. He proved that keeping your eyes on the copy you were typing from, not flitting between the copy and the keys, resulted in vastly superior speed and accuracy.
That must have settled the debate.
It really spurred the adoption of touch typing. Educators like Mrs. M.V. Longley had actually published the first printed system for the all-finger method back in 1882, but McGurran's win really popularized it.
So the machine got better, the typists got faster. Did the applications of the typewriter also expand?
Dramatically. It wasn't just for letters anymore. In 1898, someone invented the decimal tabulator.
Tab key.
Essentially, yeah. A mechanism to quickly jump to preset column positions. This was huge for business forms, invoices, ledgers, anything with columns of numbers.
Made financial work much easier.
Massively. And that led directly to the development of adding typewriters. Machines that could type text and add columns of figures simultaneously.
Whoa. Combining typing and calculating.
Exactly. And then came even more sophisticated accounting machines. These basically combined a typewriter and an adding machine, automating tasks, reducing errors, making bookkeeping much more efficient.
So it's becoming a real business machine powerhouse.
Definitely. But then, at the completely opposite end of the scale, as the source puts it,
Yeah.
came the portable typewriter.
Ah, taking it out of the office.
Exactly. Early examples include the small Blickensderfer machine, and then really taking off with the Corona around 1912.
Corona, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, these were compact, relatively lightweight machines designed for personal use, for travel, for the home, bringing typewriting to the masses, really.
Fulfilling a different kind of need.
And it was a vision that William O. Wyckoff, one of the original Remington partners, had actually anticipated 50 years earlier. He thought it would be great for education for students. The portable finally made that practical.
And the typewriter's reach, it wasn't just America, right? It went global.
Oh, absolutely global. Our source has this amazing section showcasing the motto, "To save time is to lengthen life." The original Remington slogan translated and typewritten in 84 different languages.
84 languages, that's incredible.
It really is. Everything from Celtic dialects to various African languages, right up to incredibly complex scripts.
Like what kind of challenges did they face?
Well, the source highlights Arabic script as presenting the gravest mechanical difficulties. Think about it. Over 100 different character forms, depending on position in a word, writing right to left, variable spacing.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare to mechanize.
They managed it, though. The Arabic typewriter is described as a crowning triumph of mechanical skill.
Wow. Are there any languages it couldn't conquer?
Well, ideographic languages like Chinese, with tens of thousands of unique word pictures, still posed immense challenges for a key-based system, though various complex Chinese typewriters were eventually developed. But the standard typewriter definitely had its limits there.
But still, its influence spread.
Massively. The typewriter even played a role in the spread of languages themselves. The source argues it contributed significantly to English becoming the dominant commercial language of the Far East.
How so?
Because having a typewriter that could handle English was often much easier and more efficient than trying to adapt the technology to complex local scripts. For many business people there, learning English and using an English typewriter was just more practical. The source quotes someone saying, for them, knowing English was worth another language.
So the technology itself influenced language use on a global scale.
It seems so.
It is truly incredible when you step back and consider how this seemingly simple device, born out of that Milwaukee machine shop,
Yeah.
how it grew from what Mark Twain called a curiosity-breeding little joker into this absolute indispensable tool that just transformed everything.
It really is fascinating, isn't it? How something initially dismissed, it's just a novelty, it's too slow, who needs this?
Yeah.
Ends up completely revolutionizing communication, business, education, and, as we discussed, fundamentally reshaping the role of women in society.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder, I think, that real innovation, disruptive innovation, often solves problems people didn't even consciously realize they had until the solution appeared.
That's a great point. From Henry Mill's phantom patent to, well, keyboards being everywhere today, the journey of the writing machine is just this incredible testament to human ingenuity, persistence, and maybe a little bit of that crankiness.
Maybe so. Adaptability, too.
Absolutely. So as you, our listener, reflect on just how much information we all consume and create today, tapping away on our various keyboards, maybe consider this. What pen slavery of our current age? What inefficiency or limitation are we just accepting? That might be awaiting its own seemingly simple yet utterly transformative typewriter invention.
That's a thought to chew on. What's the next typewriter?